David Behar, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm really excited to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you live in Miami and you're a young Jewish professional, you probably know who David is, but still going to give him the formal intro. So, David Behar is a Miami native, earned his undergraduate and master's degree in accounting with honors from the University of Florida in 2014, and is a licensed CPA in Florida. After 3 years at PwC's financial services assurance practice, he spent the past decade advising over 120 M&A, so mergers and acquisition transactions for companies ranging from $15 million to $2 billion in revenue. He's a first-generation American of Turkish-Cuban heritage. David is active at Temple Moses, an Orthodox Turkish-Cuban synagogue in Miami Beach. In 2021, he founded MSC, the Miami Sephardic Club, to connect young Sephardic professionals in Miami, and he now splits his time between Miami and New York to build that community. What's up, David?
Right. But now I'm all the way in Miami. I just relocated, so I probably need to update that little section. But yeah, happy to be here, Mikey.
Cool. So I'm just going to jump right into it. In your
Right.
backstory, you have a background in accounting.
Yeah.
How did you get into the singles Miami Sephardic world?
Um, well, back in college, I made the decision to go into accounting. Originally, I wanted to do finance, but after my first class, I really liked learning about accounting, all the material, and very challenging major to study at the University of Florida. And I was very excited for my whole career there, but about like 7 years into my career, I had already lived in New York for a few years, came back to Miami, and in New York, I got really close to the whole Sephardic community there, Syrians, Persians, etc. And I came here for 2 years, 2020, when Miami was really, really dead. And it was really, how do I say it? Like there wasn't much going on here, obviously because of COVID, at least not yet. So I wanted a way to connect with other Sephardic Jews in Florida, just as I was living in New York. I felt right at home with people who were more like myself, and there was no organization to tie us together. So that's really one of the reasons why I founded everything with the club. Also, when I founded the club, there were really two other big Jewish organizations in town. One of them was YJP Brickell, and the other one was K-Space. And so I was really like the first young professional to do large scale events here in Miami. So that's really what happened. And then everything just kind of took off right away.
Yeah, I feel like the landscape completely changed. The fact that you said that life was completely boring in Miami at some point. I mean, I've
Well,
only been living here for
I,
1 year, and I cannot imagine that.
I no no well I Miami has grown tremendously, especially since COVID. And even before then, since 2008 2009 financial crisis, you've seen a lot of real estate come up around town. But when I got here, it was June of 2020, so a few months into COVID, and things were really weird back then. Even living here, I mean, you still had paranoia around COVID, people walking with masks. But what started to happen was New York and so many other parts of the country turned into such a shit show with the way they were running the cities, etc. There started to be a lot of people coming into Florida, and it did feel, starting 2021, like beginning of the year, it felt like a real blessing to be here. I've made most of my friends, more friends than I ever made in my adult life, literally in that time period alone, 2021 and 2022. So Miami, compared to all the other places in the country, it was really, really fun, but it definitely took a few months to get there right after COVID.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit more specifically about the Miami Sephardic Club. So, what's your demographic? Who are you catering to? And what's your like short-term objective?
Yeah, so I started the club a few years ago, really with the same objective that I have today, and the objective is to meet every single Sephardic Jew in the world. I've done a little research. They estimate that Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews are about 4.5 million people. across the whole globe. So my mission from the beginning is to meet every single one of those people and get to know them on a first name basis. So that's what I've been tracking towards since I started, and always part of the vision. The name is called Miami Sephardic Club because I'm based in Miami, but this city brings a lot of people from other parts of the US and internationally to it during most parts of the year. So that was the goal from the beginning, is to connect with everyone coming into town. And naturally, I ended up going back to New York for a career opportunity. I was living there for 2.5 years. I started to, really get to know even more of the city in my second time living there. Very Sephardic. I was living on the Upper East Side. And through the years, through different events that I've hosted, I did an international Shabbaton to Panama. I've made a number of trips to Los Angeles where I have a lot of Persian friends. So I guess the three major Jewish markets in America I made serious connections in, and then also with my Latin American background, traveled to Panama a lot, and I've connected with people really all over. So that's really the long, and I would call it the short goal as well, because I'm constantly tracking to that.
Nice. Well, I asked you short term because I'm going to ask you about your 5-year plan, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
actually,
yeah, go ahead.
uh,
So my short term, I ever since October, I started to focus the organization a lot on matchmaking, and this is not traditional matchmaking that I'm doing. I'm running these events that are called Sephardic speed dating. They're speed dating events, but it's essentially an event where I matchmake 100 people at the same time. I set them up with, up to 7 dates for every single event. So that's what I've been up to in October, and I do this. It's a web-based platform. It
amazing.
started out as web-based. I'm doing it online. I have my own technology that I
That's
use
great.
for this, and it works great. And we've made a lot of improvements over time, everything like that. But I also started doing in-person events, and so that's really my focus. And I think it's great because, especially with the online stuff, we're getting people from all over the country, Latin America, etc. I've even had people join from Australia, Europe. So, I feel like it's solving a really big problem and major need. And I think a lot of people come to my events in general, including that, to meet other Sephardic people. There's really not a big organization out there that's trying to bring as many Sephardic people as together. So, yeah,
Yeah, great answer. So there's a few things here I want to touch upon. First of all, you mentioned online. Sometimes people might think online's a bad thing, and as big as
yeah,
Miami is,
yeah,
when you've been here for a year, and you start going to events like K Space or YJP,
mhm,
Brickle, or Yehudi, and you've gone 5 times, you kind of start to see the same people.
yeah,
And you've got a very small percentage of new people you see every
yeah,
time. So, it's just
absolutely,
diminishing returns in terms of
yeah,
networking and meeting new people.
mhm,
So, I would say that that's like a good thing now that you're doing things online because, people are like excited because they feel people want to go to an event and saying, hey, I met my best friend. I met my wife at David Behar's event, and
yeah,
that's what people they don't. Food is great, partying is great, but what
yeah.
people remember is when they make good connections at events, and I
Well,
think you're creating a unique opportunity for that.
it is. So I'll tell you, I've been telling people a lot over the last like a year and a half, 2 years. I find that a lot of our Jewish events are played out. It's a lot of the people doing the same thing over and over. It's a party, it's dancing, it's food, light appetizers. I stopped going to events myself like 2 years ago, even well into being single, not having, realistic, marriage options. um, Everyone's doing the same thing, and no matter what city you're located in, Miami, New York, LA, everybody will always tell you that they're seeing the same people at every single event. It's not super effective. Sometimes this is very common from my experience, and I think a lot of people go through this too. If they're going to a lot of events, there will be a number of events that they walk into where they're like everyone's weird here. It was a bust. There was no one to meet. And the thing is, like, you know, I forget how the saying goes, but it's like insanity is when you're doing the same thing over and over again. That's what we're all doing with Jewish events. You know, they're pretty. If you're going to compare like a regular Jewish event to like let's say a wedding, which is very different type of event, like it's a much lower quality production. The food's worse, the music's worse, literally the venue's worse, everything's worse. It's a cheap production. So what I'm doing with the online, I love to do because the technology, it works seamlessly. It puts people in different rooms
Hmm.
for every single
Okay.
dating round, and then it moves them to other rooms, and it allows me as the matchmaker to pre-plan dates. So like for every single person, I know all the people that they're going to meet for the night, and the technology moves them from room to room throughout the night. And what I find with this particular service, the speed dating, it's very effective at people meeting potential partners that they want to date. When you're at a party, there's all sorts of factors there that are going to prevent you from that. The music's loud. Girls like feel more comfortable hanging out with their friends. Guys also feel more comfortable. Not everybody's super extroverted,
Right.
but the dating service that we have, speed dating, it's really it's bringing serious daters together, and I've seen a lot of
Right.
dates happen after each event. So yeah,
Yeah. And two things to add to that. First of all, sometimes you go to these Miami events and there's like 150 people there. The place is packed. You're like,
yeah,
this is awesome. There's so many people to meet, but they seat you in a circle. Like everyone's got their own small circular
yeah,
table. You don't end up meeting anyone. At the
yeah,
most, you end up meeting the person to the left of you and to the right of you. It doesn't matter how many people are there.
yeah,
I always found that super frustrating, and I always wondered like, why don't they make like a bell like every 30 minutes, and you have to switch seats. And if you're talking to someone you like, then you can stick together. But at least
yeah.
you
Are you
can mix
referring
things
to like
around.
dinner? Like, what are you referring to? Like Shabbat dinners? Like,
Shabbat dinners, yeah. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to call out a specific place, but there's one specific place that I go to that has so many people there. But and I always get the least amount of networking there because they have
yeah,
these like tables that are all segregated, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just you just end up meeting the person on your left and on your right, uh,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
okay. But the fact that the speed dating concept feels so much better, and yeah, and we tend to, and also we also have like our own types and our preconceived notions. So when
Yeah.
you're speed dating, you're kind of stuck with someone for a very small period of time,
Yeah, five
and
minutes.
that's not always a bad thing. That's not always a bad thing because you might give yourself a shot to something you might have just ruled out for superficial reasons.
Well,
So
I think when you're forced, first off, like I collect a lot of data when people are signing up, so I'm not like just putting them together blindly.
mm,
Like I put people together who I think would be a good match, and when you're forced to talk to someone for 5 minutes, you're gonna know within 2 minutes if it's a good, easy conversation. We've all been there when we get to our first date with a person, and you think to yourself, "Oh my God, I'm stuck with this person for another hour because the
right,
conversation's not fluid." But the speed date, you have a few minutes to really figure it out. And then the beautiful thing is, if you like the person, they like you, then I share contact information with each other. The system does it. But it's a really good and quick way to know if you have a connection with someone. So
right. So let me ask you this: everything goes well, David. You start finding success in what you're doing, and you're looking to expand outwards. Do you have an idea of where you might be, where you'd hope to be in 5 years from now? Will it still be a Sephardic club throwing events, or would you kind of try to turn it into something else and use this more as a stepping stone?
right now, like I said, I'm very focused on the Sephardic speed dating. It's a web-based system and events. I would love to get it to a point where I'm having more consistent events. So far, I've done one event per month.
Good.
Roughly, I have two in-persons planned for Miami and New York. So I'd love to continue focusing on the online based stuff. Actually, over the years, the volume of events that I've done has gone down, like in-person events. I only do a few of them per year, like three or four. So I'm hoping in the near term, 1 to 2 years, I'm just gonna I'm gonna continue attracting new people to the events through marketing and better marketing, etc. Getting the word out there and hopefully doing them with a greater frequency.
Got it.
So a combination, and then really like in terms of business in general. I came from the corporate world. I was working for 11 years for big companies, and I one of the things I love about doing the Sephardic Club is it's something that I started 4 years ago now, and it's really compared to working for corporate, it's entrepreneurial. I put my own money into a lot of things. Always, like when you have that in mind, you really want to work your hardest to make it a success. So, um, you know, I'm not sure really to answer. It's a complicated question to answer. Like I enjoy the entrepreneurial aspect of it. I would love to get into some new business opportunities through it. Events related. One of the things that we just built in to our website is I would love to get into the event planning for the Jewish community. So the way I look at Sephardic Club, it's something that's for the community, but it's really a mechanism for me to meet as many people as possible. And I hope that within the next 5 years, it will turn into some real business opportunities, maybe different companies, whatever it is. The more people you meet, the more ideas you get.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on this fact that you had two different lives. You had a life in New York and you had a life in Miami.
Yeah.
And as someone who lives in Miami, I would love to meet people in New York, but it's kind of like
Yeah.
I'm stuck in the bubble of Miami. Do you have
Yeah.
any plans to like bridge these two together? And I guess maybe what you're
Well,
doing with the speed dating is that,
I
right?
think in my opinion, from having lived in New York twice and then having moved back to New York after COVID, they seem like very interconnected communities and cities. Like maybe
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like that for you, but I knew a lot of people who were just like myself who were going to Miami every month or every other month. And I felt like I was half the time in Miami, half the time in New York. I knew quite a few people like myself too. So I think you moved. When did you move to Miami? About
I moved to Miami about a year ago, maybe a
so
little more.
what I was telling you that COVID was like a really crazy time here. One thing that happened during COVID was all of New York came to live in Miami, and I'm not over exaggerating that. New York
Hmm.
came to live here for like a year. And so naturally, a lot of them met people from down here and vice versa. So I think they are pretty interconnected, but yeah, again, with the online dating, I do, if someone, one of the questions we ask is if they're open to long distance dating. Surprisingly, about 80% of our people are open to it. And so when
Hmm.
they say they're open to it, if they're in New York and Miami, I tend to pair them up more with each other because it's a quicker flight. So yeah, that's definitely a plan. I guess to connect. My plan is really to connect everyone, all 4.5 million of us, and um, that's one of the reasons why I did an international trip to Panama 2 years ago. Had about 100 people come to that, and I'm actually talking to a rabbi that I'm close to in Los Angeles. He has a very nice sized young professional community. He's been talking about this with me for over a year. He wants to do something to bridge East Coast and West Coast, which is even less connected than Miami and New York. People don't really know each other on the two coasts like
Right.
that. So I would say that's more of an initiative for me than New York to Miami.
Right. Just to interject here, I want to show you something. That's an appropriate cup I brought out today. It's
What is that?
celebration.
The
It's a big,
it's a
it's a
crypto.
Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin cup. Yeah, because
By the way,
we hit 100K today. It's
I
been a
know.
good day.
Shout out to Mikey. I called him for some crypto advice. I hadn't really been experienced in investing in it, and actually, you don't know this, but I watch YouTubes like every single day on crypto. I'm fascinated by it. Really, it's
Yeah,
great.
you just got to hold, man. And it's just
I
starting too, so
I
it
do.
looks really nice.
I don't want to call it day trading, but I take my gains. I
Good.
look at my crypto trading as like something that I just go in and out of because, like you said a long time ago, it can be quite volatile. And
Yeah.
since we spoke, really the only two currencies that I look at are BTC, Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
and Solana. And like I'm
Yeah.
always keeping an eye on where they're going every single day.
Right.
So Solana did really well today too. It's at
Yeah, it's
160.
still very oversold. So if anything, like the
Yeah,
altcoins are kind of lagging behind. But yeah, the big
We'll see.
buying Bitcoin is like the S&P for crypto. I mean, you're
I
pretty
think
safe.
Bitcoin, I mean, it's insane that I reached what it dipped down to like 76 or 77. So,
74,
so
74,
it dipped
74.
down quite a bit from the upper 90s, but I feel like that's, like you said, it's so natural for,
Right.
these coins to take a hit.
If you're aiming to make 400%, you got to be okay with a 40% dip.
Yeah,
You
no, I
got to.
think in
Yeah.
my eyes, I actually read a book on crypto, and I forget what it's called already, just to learn like what it is. And I have a strong belief that it's going to be the one asset class that you see the biggest gains in over the next.
Right.
It already has been it's like
Right.
real estate. Real estate's so expensive to buy these days. Like no one, a lot of younger people can't afford real estate, but you could afford crypto, and
Yeah.
you might see those crazy returns over the next 10, 20 years, especially with Bitcoin.
Right.
I think
I agree with you.
Bitcoin is, I think it's a
It
pretty safe investment, I think.
Yeah, it's very simple
These
math. I mean,
days, these days.
you have a finite supply and you have only increasing demand.
Yeah.
And I think it's 2034. You're gonna have 99% of all Bitcoin mined, and then over the next 100 years, I think it's gonna be the last 1%,
Wow.
and that's it. And
Wow.
now you're having countries and states. So what? Arizona last night just adopted a Bitcoin reserve. I
Wow.
think New Hampshire was so it's the second state in the United States. Just
Wow.
this week, both
Well, the
states
federal
did.
government did that like 2 or 3 months ago. I forget
Right,
they announced it, and
right.
I think they invested in like 7 or 8 coins.
No, so they didn't actually. So the bit of a letdown was that they're not actually buying crypto. They're just holding
Oh,
what they've seized, which
oh,
they kind of hinted towards they're going to actually buy Bitcoin. They're not doing that right now.
hmm.
So it's like budget neutral. But at the same time, they still have a reserve now, and they're not selling any Bitcoin, like seized Bitcoin or seized
Interesting. I
cryptocurrencies.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and they're kind of creating like like it's a new dawn, it's a new era for American-based cryptos because they've been held back by the SEC for years with
Yeah,
intentional lack of regulation, so these
yeah,
companies can't grow.
yeah,
But we're seeing all that change. The SEC is dropping all the lawsuits against XRP, against Coinbase. Just a whole bunch of stuff is being dropped, and yeah, it's just a good time. It really is. So just
yeah.
cheers to that because we
I
finally it's been a turbulent 3 months, so it's
it
good.
has been. It's been going sideways until really,
Sideways, down,
yeah,
up,
yeah,
sideways. Yeah, but
down
yeah,
up.
we broke right through 95. We broke right through 100. Broke right through 102.5. It's
It should
looking
be an
pretty good.
interesting. I like to, it's like a little hobby of mine to check my Coinbase every
Yeah,
day and just track the prices.
right,
I like to
right.
see.
And the fact that you have a little bit of money in there, like you're invested, you're studying it, you're learning it,
Yeah,
and then over the years, it's a whole other area of where you can start building wealth and revenue, and you learn how
yeah,
to be patient. I mean, imagine you had dry powder when we were at 75K. It's just a nice place to be.
yeah,
Um, but you just played smart, and the secret to crypto is not knowing when, or the secret to really any stock market is not knowing. It's not knowing when to buy low. It's knowing when to sell. The problem with crypto is when you see it pumping, you become euphoric, and you hold on to it thinking it's never going to go down.
Well,
So
that's why I took.
buying low is one thing, but
Yeah,
selling high is really the other,
yeah.
and you constantly want to go against
I took some
your
gains today, and
good.
I had that issue with other stocks where I just refuse to ever let it go. But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I know these things go up and down all the time, so
you
I'm
could
like,
have a long-term portfolio 100%, but you
yeah,
always, like, when you're on a day where you're up, you always want to sell 1-2% and keep it
yeah,
as dry powder because you never know when you're really going to want it.
yeah,
Yeah, all good stuff. Okay,
yeah,
back to the Sephardic Club.
yeah.
So you know, I had one last question for you. Are you just looking for singles, or do you want to
No,
make this more into young
no,
professionals?
no. Every event, and since the beginning, I never wanted to call it a singles organization. I saw other people doing these things when I started, and I'm not going to name any names, but some people run singles, events, and it just has such a stigma behind it.
Right,
And those are usually the events where you see like 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds who
correct.
have never been married. Like I don't want to build a club
Right,
around that. So no, I have
and
couples come. I've had my biggest event of the year is a Mimuna. And I've had over 500 people in the past to my Mimunas. They're quite large. And Um, there are some years where I invite like legit like older people, 60s, and if people have parents, and sometimes they brought grandparents to it. However, it is mostly for the younger people. But I do get married couples who are friends
Sweet.
coming to these things, boyfriend, girlfriend. It doesn't matter because it's all about just having a nice environment. Um,
Right. And you're right. When you like have a stigma or when you make it like a singles event, again, you're gonna get people like everyone's gonna have their guard up. It's like going to a bar trying to get a girl's number.
yeah,
She's got her guard up. But
yeah,
if you make events on common interests, or if you make even like something on like an entrepreneurial sense, those who are interested in the stock market, those who are interested in real estate, those who are interested in crypto, those who are interested in programming or marketing,
yeah.
and you make professional events, you can find people can get along a lot more organically and naturally
Yeah.
that way as well.
Well, in a singles event, people feel so much pressure to
Right.
go there and find their girlfriend or boyfriend. And literally 95, 99% of the time, they walk away and they say, hey, it's the same people over and over again.
Right.
So, but like I said, my mission at the beginning was to meet every Sephardic Jew. And that's
I
why
love that mission statement. I
I
love it.
know. That's why I think people are drawn to me, into my organization because these are people coming to meet other Sephardic Jews and feel closer to their heritage. And that's also another thing I do through my website. I started, and I think we exchanged some texts about this earlier this week. I started last fall a newsletter called the Miami Jews. Let me clarify, Miami Jews. I said that with a stutter. And I write a lot of articles myself, and I have written a number of articles on the different Sephardic cultures. I do like research into everything. Like I have
Mm.
articles written on the Turkish culture. I've written one on my on the Cuban Jewish
Okay,
culture.
I didn't know you were Cuban. I was
Yeah,
surprised.
both of my parents were
Yeah.
born there. Yeah.
Both your parents
So
were born. Oh, because they moved from
they
Turkey to Cuba.
Exactly, yeah. And
Very
our
cool.
synagogue, the one that you came into when I got married, that's a Turkish Cuban synagogue.
Mazal tov, by the way.
Thank
It's
you,
just
thank you.
recently.
That's a
Yeah.
Turkish Cuban synagogue where
Ah,
everyone came from Turkey to Cuba, Cuba to Miami in the
very cool.
1960s. So, but I write articles and I love, my involvement in the club. I've learned a lot about a lot of different Sephardic cultures, Persian,
Beautiful.
Syrian, I study it and I think people actually do like that content as well. I've had people tell me that they read my article and they screenshotted it. They never knew these things. So it's really, like I said, it's not a singles organization. It's to bring Sephardic Jews together and also help, like each of us help each other out, whether it's business or shit off at anything.
Beautiful. David, honestly, from the first time I met you, it's been a pleasure. Your energy is
Thanks.
amazing, and I adore your entrepreneurial spirit. So I wish you
Thank you.
much
Thank
success
you.
with the Sephardic Club, and
Thank
hopefully
you.
I'll be at your next event.
Well, we gotta
Um,
get together anyway to just talk about everything that you're up
yes.
to. Would love to learn more about that too. So
Yeah, that coffee is long overdue.
I know.
Um, and I know you said you had only till 10:30, so I appreciate you we going overtime.
Of
And
course.
David, thank you again for your time. Until next time, buddy.
Thanks, Mikey. Take care.